All right, guys, here we go. Another episode here for training camp. Not sure when this one's going to be released. I've got storms coming in tonight. The Brickyard this week. Storms are going to be pretty nasty, so we'll see if the upload takes place later tonight. Could be on Tuesday morning. Not sure when it's going to be. But nonetheless, let's rock and roll with the next training camp preview. Here we go. All right, guys, welcome back in. Here we go. The next training camp preview. We have got the Green Bay Packers. Now, there is a little bit of disparity when it comes to what everyone thinks this team will be able to do this year. PFF has them ranked in the top 10. I looked at their roster, I looked at their depth chart, I looked at their schedule. I'm really not sure how. The strength of schedule is the sixth hardest strength of schedule there is. The first 6 weeks, as we've been going through, we'll go through the first 6 weeks again. For them, they open up against Detroit and Washington at home, but it's at home in September, not December. So honestly, the way that the Packers have normally started out, not really sure how fast Jordan Love gets off. And Detroit, Washington, probably 0-2. But then they have at Cleveland, at Dallas. So 2 very winnable games. Should be W's. Home against Cincinnati after their bye week in week 5. Really early bye week. And at Arizona is their 6th game. In those 6 games, I think 3-3 is easily achievable. 4-2, I think, would be better than. I think 4-2 would actually be really, really good. Now, if they were somehow to lose to 4 of those 2 and go 2-4, I think you're going to have major question marks. And if the question mark is Jordan Love, it's going to be viable. Because you get a schedule later in the year, starting in week 12. Now, you guys know how I feel about division games. Division games are always either or. The bad teams always play the better teams tough. And this division is going to be outrageously tough. Outrageously tough. Starting in week 12, they go Minnesota, Detroit, Chicago, Denver, Chicago, Baltimore, Minnesota. Now, I think they can split with Chicago and Minnesota. And I still think Detroit's the better team. Obviously, they're at Detroit on Thanksgiving, which Green Bay has played them tough. But I think by week 13, the new offensive and defensive coordinators will have things figured out a little bit. So it's not an easy close to the schedule. So I'm not really sure where to put the success ranking and where to put the failure. The failure, I'm guessing, for most Packer fans, is going to be missing the playoffs. That would be a failure. They've made some moves. They signed their right tackle to a long-term deal. They drafted a wide receiver in the first round for the first time in forever. But they just don't feel like something's not right. I don't get the high hype, and I don't get the really, really low hype either. This is the Green Bay Packers. Wild card positioning kind of seems like what it's going to be. They may get the 7th seed again. I don't know. But something just doesn't make sense. Now, to me, the weakest position is wide receiver. I know what you're thinking, but they've got Jaden Reed, Matthew Golden, Christian Watson, Dobbs, Wicks. That's if they all play. Why did they draft Matthew Golden? Well, because of injuries. Injuries are a part of your availability. And the weakest part of the receivers is the availability. If they're all healthy, yeah, it's not the weakest position. I will fully give you that. But track record says, nope, not going to work. That's what the track record says. So, the offensive line is not bad. Aaron Banks comes in at left guard. Elgton Jenkins at center. Zach Tom, like I said, the right tackle. Defensively, they're not horrible. The secondary could have been the second area where I would have put weakest, but Xavier McKinney, Carrington Valentine, they got some guys back there. Nate Hobbs, I kind of question. I don't know if this defense is going to be great for him. I'm really worried if he's going to actually end up getting run by because he doesn't have the speed. Excuse me. Doesn't have the speed. So because of that, I could have put secondary. But I really think the health of the wide receivers is where this season is going to hinge on. If Dobbs is hurt and Reed is hurt and Watson's hurt, if you only have Matthew Golden and Savion Williams, guess what? It's probably going to be a down year. And I hope not, because last year watching Malik Willis win the games that he did and how he played showed how good of a coach Matt LaFleur is. And I think Matt LaFleur is an outstanding coach. I still am not totally sold on Jordan Love. He disappears in big games. He's got a lot of Dak Prescott aspects to him. Disappears in big games, and you're not really sure, except he doesn't have the garbage time stats that Dak has become accustomed to. Dak gets the garbage time stats. Jordan does not. They can play the same, play horrible for 3 quarters, but Dak will play really good in the 4th quarter when he's down 28, and Jordan won't. So there is a big, big difference between the two of them, how they close out games. But both of them disappear in big games. They make a lot of mental mistakes. They're not buttoned up. And Jordan Love has a lot to prove this year. A lot to prove. So, for me, success is, once again, making the playoffs. A failure would be missing the playoffs. We're going to make it simple. It's that simple. Make the playoffs or miss the playoffs. Because I don't think in a year where Minnesota, I believe, will be slightly down. I don't believe in a year where Minnesota's slightly down that you can really get away with not making the playoffs and call it anywhere near a success. Now, as usual, if Jordan Love gets hurt, if your quarterback gets hurt, we're going to take everything out. I know what Stefanski did with the Browns a couple years ago. That's not normal. Okay? Malik Willis is not probably going to lead them to the playoffs. But the reality is the receiver room is really where I think it hinges. The offensive line is strong. Jacobs should be able to run really, really well. But the schedule just doesn't line up great for them. It really doesn't. The schedule does not line up great. So for the Packers, success, make the playoffs. Failure, miss the playoffs. Cut and dry. Simple. All right. That is the Green Bay Packers. Now, finish up the NFC North with the Detroit Lions. Now, they have the 3rd strength of schedule. Let's take a look here. Their first 6 games are as follows. at Green Bay, home against Chicago, at Baltimore, home against Cleveland, at Cincinnati, and at Kansas City. Let me be clear. They're not going 16-1 this year. Okay? They are not. They will take a step back. They have a perfect bye week, though, and this is really what I want to hone in on. They have an absolutely perfect bye week. Bye week 8. Week 8. So you get to play 7 weeks, new offensive coordinator, new defensive coordinator, play some tough teams, Cincinnati, Baltimore, you get Green Bay, and then you get a break to be able to recalibrate. And you finish out the rest of the year. You have New York Giants, the Cowboys, the Steelers, the Vikings twice, all on the back half of the schedule. So if you can get through the first 6 games at 3-3, you're looking okay for the back. I think you're looking okay for the back end of the schedule. It doesn't look that daunting. It looks like it'll work out okay. I do think they'll sweep Minnesota. Chicago and Green Bay can give them fits, but I think Green Bay, Jordan Love just doesn't have that ability if the defense is all on the field. I mean, defensively, this team was ravaged by injuries. And I know everybody's always like, well, next man up. 16 defensive players were on injured reserve. 16. Okay, that's 5 more than what you have on the field starting. There is a level to next man up. That was it. And they still went 16-1, but then you make the playoffs, and honestly, they couldn't compete with the team that was, I mean, they're riding a high. There's no doubt about that. But this year, what's different is because of the retirement and because of losing Zeitler, Graham Glasgow is now moving from guard to center. So your 2 guards are now new. Tate Rutledge, the rookie from Georgia, and Christian Mahogany from Boston College, I believe, drafted last year. 6th-round pick last year. Your tackles are fine. Decker and Penei Sewell, your tackles are fine, and your center's fine. But your 2 that are in between, which with an interior pass rush is going to be the issue. I think those first 6 weeks go a little bit rocky. They go 3-3, and then they figure out how to be able to make this work. They still got Jahmyr Gibbs. They still got David Montgomery. Once they figure out how to run block, which I think this team will be a lot better at than pass blocking, I think they'll be okay. Defensively, though, if everybody's healthy, this team is dangerous. Hutchinson, McNeil, Reeder, Davenport, and an entire second line that could start for probably 2 or 3 teams. Josh Paschal, Mekhi Wingo, Tyleik Williams, and Al-Quadin Muhammad. That second group could start for 3 or 4 teams in the NFL. They are very deep at the defensive line position, but running back obviously is definitely the strongest because both Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery could be starters. And because they play the way they do, they stay fresh and they do it really, really well. Now on the back end, Terrion Arnold, 2nd year, he needs to make a big jump. DJ Reed coming in, big signing. Amik Robertson, Kirby Joseph, stellar safety, and Brian Branch, obviously the young star safety. They got Grant Stewart. They picked him up from the Colts, special teams linebacker and backup linebacker. I think he fits. I think he fits really well. And I'm excited to see what this defensive coordinator does. I'm excited to see what the offense looks like. Honestly, I'm hoping this is like a Jets ground and pound, play action consistently, Amon-Ra St. Brown, 12-yard dig routes. Like, that's really what I think this needs to be for them to be successful. What is success? I'm going to say it's the same as the Packers. You lose both coordinators. You lost a bunch of staff. You have all the players coming back, but the coaching is the hard part. Success, win the division. Period. That is success, winning the division. A failure is missing the playoffs. So not just making the playoffs for success. They need to win the division again to call it a success. Making the playoffs, you're like, yeah, cool. Let's get into playoffs and see what we can do. But that's not really what our goal was. They need to win the division for it to be a success. But the failure is still the same. The failure is not going to be making the playoffs. The failure will be missing the playoffs. And it's that simple. Me personally, I still think they are the team to beat. They have the best roster in that division, bar none. When fully healthy, which is all we go off of. When fully healthy, stacked against each other, the Lions win every time. They are better. They still have their head coach, which runs everything. First 6 weeks could be rocky. The rest of the season, probably really good. I think they'll button everything up after that, and I think they'll have a really good back half run. They'll probably still end up winning 12 games and go 12-5. That's how I see this playing out. I think the second half of the season, the Lions will get hot. And for anybody that predicts them to go to the Super Bowl, they'll be hot at the right time. They'll figure it out. Injuries can always derail stuff. 16 defensive players went on IR, and they were still the number one seed in the NFC. They were still that team. Says a lot about the coaching, and that's why they got cherry-picked this offseason. It's that simple. Other news. What other news? Well, basically the other news right now is baseball, but I'm going to wait until Thursday to go over all that because I don't want to be premature. I'd rather just do one baseball recap video about everything. So I'm going to wait on the baseball stuff. Not much going on in basketball. Still have the recap video for that coming up. Have a fantastic weekend if this does end up getting released this weekend. Weather I know is blowing in. So we'll see if I get it released tonight or if it'll be next week. But either way, make it the best day you can. Have an absolutely fantastic evening, and I will see you guys on the next one. I'm not sure which one we're going to go with. Not sure which division we're going to go with, but we are, preseason game next Thursday. Hall of Fame game, so football, hitting, tackling, real football is back next Thursday. Cannot wait for that. All right, guys, that's going to be it. Have an absolutely fantastic day. Until next time, for Sports Talk with Hawk, I am Hawk, and I'm out. Have a great evening.